Well, to set up Luke chapter 19 here in verse 1, it says he, meaning Jesus, was passing through Jericho on the way to Jerusalem. This is incidentally his final journey into Jerusalem. His triumphal entry and ultimate death, burial, and resurrection is the next thing on his calendar. But his journey there takes him through Jericho. And when he gets there, Luke introduces a key character. And you see it in verse 2, he says, and behold, that's the word, look out. There was a man named Zacchaeus. And in Luke chapter 2, we learn, verse 2, Luke tells us two things about him. That Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector, he worked for the government, and that he was rich. Now, in that day, in that context, that combination would have made him very well known and very disliked. How does one become a chief tax collector in those days? Well, Zacchaeus was a Jewish man, and the Jewish nation in that day was under the dominion of the Roman Empire. And so he's collecting taxes for the Romans. And the way you would get that job is you would go to the Roman authorities and say, I will extract money from my people on your behalf. So how does that person become rich? Well, you do what a lot of tax collectors did that day. You could add a surcharge onto the tax of those people to pay your own salary. And they would get a generous surcharge so they could become wealthy. And so what he's done here is, I will become rich off the hardship of my people. So as we start the story here, you just got to know who Zacchaeus was. He is not a sympathetic character. We're not rooting for him yet, right? His choices had made a statement to the community. I care more about me than you, and I will use you to advantage me. And the locals had no recourse. You couldn't cry out against the injustice of it all. He had the power of Rome behind him. And so they had to pay him, but their only kind of option of what to do was to try to hurt him emotionally. Let me just make sure that you are disliked and you feel it. So we will ostracize you socially. So you may get wealthy off us, but you are not invited into the circle of this community, right? So we will shun you. But then in verse 3, we find out something interesting about Zacchaeus. It said he was seeking to see who Jesus was. He's got an interest in Jesus, right? Now, Jesus rolls into this town, and Zacchaeus is interested, but we're not told why. At this point, Jesus is famous for really two things. Number one, for his miracles, that he can bring sight to the blind. He can bring wholeness and healing to that which is broken, that he has power. And it's not just like magical power, like he can do tricks. He is restoring and bringing health and bringing life. This man has the power of the divine behind him. And he was also famous because he would preach, and he was preaching about the love of God, that God wants to forgive sinners. Sin means to be separated from God, to be ostracized from the community of God. And Jesus is talking about love even for God's enemies, that you can be drawn near and have communion, that some people who are on the outside can be brought in, that God is searching for sinners. And so some combination of those fascinates Zacchaeus. It says he was seeking Jesus, and you don't seek if you're satisfied. Seeking means you're lacking. And so here we have a guy with a high-powered job and money, but it's not enough. And many of you know people like that. Many of you are people like that. And so here he wants to see Jesus, right? But in verse 3, we get the problem. And he was seeking to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd, he could not because he was small in stature. So his problem is actually a combination of two things. There's a big crowd and he's little, right? Now, we tall people don't really know what this is like. We don't know the complexities of these things. Why are you laughing? Never thought of myself as short. Till I was at a wedding one time. I remember I was with a group of buddies, and some guy told a short joke. And we were all laughing because it was funny. Ah, ha, ha, ha. And he goes, ah, ha, ha. Sorry, Ben. And I was like, ah, wait, what? What? That's short. And then they showed me a picture that we took together later. And we all had our arms around each other. And mine was around their shoulders. And I never really noticed it before, but like my hands are up here like I'm riding a chopper with some egg hangers. And I'm like, man, it's like not a good look, right? But I'm happily married and I love my life, so I'm not worried about it, okay? But he's got a problem here. He's little and there's a big crowd. I'm not gonna get anywhere near him. But the upside of being small is it makes you resourceful. And so in verse 4, it says, so he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, for he was about to pass that way. Now, Zacchaeus is a sharp guy. Zacchaeus, thank you, baby. He kind of maps the trajectory of Jesus' path through town and says, if I can get on ahead, I can get a better vantage point so I can see him as he passes by. Sycamore trees have thick branches that are low. They're perfect for a little guy. And so he gets to one of those and he scales up it. Now, I just want you to notice what that says about the man. There's a humility to him. He doesn't come marching down the street and demand an audience with Jesus. Do you know who I am? He doesn't do that, right? I just want to see him. There's a vulnerability to it. A grown man up in a tree would be a funny thing. He's willing to risk mockery because he just wants to see it. Is it true that God maybe has something for someone like me? This is, I'm not demanding. I'm just trying to be in the room to see if it's true. This to me is back row in the balcony. I'm not taking shots at you guys. I know some of you might have had trouble parking. But I just incidentally, I love to sit in the back row in the balcony. I'm not judging you either. But this is somebody that's saying, hey, I'm just trying to get in the room and see. He's not pushing himself forward. He just wants to look and get a glimpse at the Messiah. And then here's where the story gets crazy. Jesus, in verse 5, came to the place, looked up, and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today. He's just up in the tree trying to see, is forgiveness possible for a guy like me? Is hope even on the table for someone like me? And Jesus steers this makeshift parade straight to the tree and looks up and says his name, Zacchaeus. How did he know that? We don't know. The text doesn't say. Could have been that he had heard rumors about him. Could be just he's flexing his Jesus power. I know you. Either way, he's walking up to him and saying, Zacchaeus. What does that mean? It means I know you. I know what you are. I know who you are, and I've come towards you. This isn't a general call. This is specific. All the verbs belong to Jesus. This is not an accident. It's intentional. I am steering the ship towards you, little man. Zacchaeus, hurry up. Don't wait. Not tomorrow. Not let's grab coffee later. Get down from here because I must come to your house today. I love that he doesn't say like, I'd like to or it'd be cool. He says it has to be that way. Why? Why does it have to be that way? Jesus is going to say it later. The reason I have come is to seek and to save the lost. He says, you're not someone that's too far from me. You're my mission. You're why I'm here. Some of you feel like I am so far from God. Maybe the best I could do is brave being in the room. Let me tell you something. You are not someone distant from him. You are what he's here for. That he says, I'm coming for you, and I need to be at your house because that is completely complicit with my mission on this planet, right? How did Zacchaeus respond? So he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. You want to come to my house? No one comes to my house. No one wants to hang out with me. You understand who you're talking to? Yeah, I know who I'm talking to. I said your name. Yeah, your house. I'm aware, and I'm coming for you anyway. That's called grace. And grace like that has an impact. He scurries down and receives him joyfully. This does not make Jesus popular. You see it in the next verse. And when they saw it, who's the they? Everyone else. They all grumbled. He has gone in to be the guest of a man who's a sinner. Why are you going to his house? You eat with someone you like. We've talked about this. You might be in a work group with people you can't stand. You may work in an office with people you don't respect, but lunchtime belongs to you. I'm gonna sit with who I like, right? And so to have a meal in someone's house is to associate with them. It's like, no, Jesus, don't associate with that guy. What's the assumption? He's not worthy of it. What's the assumption there? There's people who are. That I can do something to make me worthy of an audience of Jesus, that's a complete misunderstanding of the gospel. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. All of us like sheep have gone astray. That's all of our story. The only reason you get to the table with Jesus is by admission of need and his kindness. Zacchaeus, you're the ideal candidate because your humility and your brokenness is what opens the door to grace. That's what happens. And so Jesus says, no, I'm coming to your house. Why? Because Jesus understands that love precedes life change. Jesus isn't saying, clean up your life and then I'll love you. He says, no, it's the opposite. My love changes you from the inside out. That's how it works. That's Beauty and the Beast. You must be loved to become lovable. They stole it from Jesus. This is what he does. His grace flies first, and we cannot stay the same. When God's glory meets human depravity, it will incinerate you, the holiness of God to sinful men and women. But when that glorious God condescends in grace, it changes you from the inside out. Extravagant grace leads to extravagant worship. And that's what happens to Zacchaeus. Verse 8, it says, and Zacchaeus stood and said to the Lord, behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor. And if I've defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. Now, in the religious system of that day, the Jewish people, you were meant to give 10% of your income to the religious, social scaffolding and structures of the day. You were supposed to tithe, is what it's called. I give 10% of my income to support the temple and its activities and the various assorted things that were sort of the cohesive unit of our society that I give to these religious things. But if you think about what amount of Jewish money was given to the community and specifically to the religious aspects of the community, it was more than that because there was festivals all throughout the year and you were meant to host barbecues and you were supposed to invite the poor and the widow and the Levite, the minister, you're supposed to invite all these people and host these things. So it was gonna get up there in terms of percentage of your income, but generosity was considered 20%. If you got to the end of your year and 20% of your money was given in benevolence for the sake of the community, you were considered a generous person. Zacchaeus says half. I give away half. That's crazy. And then he says, if I've wronged anybody, I pay him back 4 times the amount I wronged him. That's even crazier because it's very specific in the Old Testament, in Leviticus and Numbers, that if you defraud someone and are found guilty, you have to pay them back what you owe them and tack on 20%. He says 4 times what I defrauded them. Right? This is called extravagant, right? Way past what is necessary. Right? And so Jesus looks at it and says in verse 9, today salvation has come to this house, since he also is the son of Abraham. Now, it's important that we don't get this twisted. This is not Jesus looking at the dollar amount and going, bing, okay, salvation, you got it. I was waiting to see how generous you were gonna be. I had my little thermometer out and we did it. Salvation is yours, right? Zacchaeus didn't earn rescue by his generosity, right? This is an evidence of the change that happened within, right? That the reception of radical grace becomes extravagant generosity. It does. If Jesus has condescended to love me and to know me and to fellowship with me, then I want to be a part of what he's doing in the world. I want to be a part of what he's doing in this planet. And so yes, that will have an impact on my life. His giving is an effect, not a cause. I'm not earning God's approval. I'm not earning God's smile. I was met with grace when I was an outcast in a tree. But because that grace came slamming into my life, I cannot stay the same. I am something else entirely. That's the idea. Today, salvation has come to this house. It's interesting, the salvation there's past tense. And the life change is in present tense, right? Because of what he's done, right? Now, the giving is an effect, not a cause. It's a response that shows your heart. So what does save you? How can Jesus say, salvation's come to this guy's house? He's not doomed to the outcome of his broken choices. How can he be elevated out of that? Jesus says why in verse 10. For, that gives you reason, the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. Why is salvation in the house? because I'm in the house. That's what he says. Don't get it twisted. You're being rescued and brought into community with God because I sought you and I saved you. Jesus seeks and Jesus saves. And then we respond to grace with generosity. That's how it works. Do you see that? So what does the saving? Jesus does. Jesus does. How's Jesus gonna do it? Jericho's the last stop before you hit Jerusalem. Next thing on Jesus' calendar is the triumphal entry. He's gonna march into Jerusalem, proclaim himself to be the Messiah, teach for a week, really tick off the religious leadership, and they're gonna murder him. Right? And it's interesting in that moment, I don't know, the first time I read this story, I'm like, okay, Jesus comes to his house for a meal and Zacchaeus gives away like 50% of his possessions. Like that seems like a little much. And then you realize socially what Jesus was doing, but it goes further than that. Was Zacchaeus generous by Jesus' standards? No, because Jesus didn't give 50% of his blood on the cross. He didn't tithe his blood. I'll give 10%. He didn't tithe his possessions. He condescended, we're told in Philippians, from heaven to earth. And then when he was on earth, didn't take the seat of a king, he became a servant, and became a servant even to death on the cross, that he gave up a home. The man did not have possessions. The only thing Jesus had at the end of his life was the clothes on his back, and they stripped those off and gambled for them while they were murdering him. But he chose that path. He walked that path, not to tithe his blood, to give all of it, 100% of it. My life poured out. Why? So you can have life. Amen. So I can have life. So I can have hope in a future. So that my destiny is not tragedy, that the saddest things in my world do not end in death and darkness, because Jesus went to death and darkness for me and then rose up on the other side. I have hope even in the darkest days. That doesn't mean I get everything I want, but it means I get him. I get God, I get communion, I get Jesus in my house, I get to be a part of God's community, I get grace that changes me from the inside out. That radical grace produces extravagant generosity, because I just want to be a part of what he's doing. Do you see that? Now, why teach this text? A couple reasons. Number one is because some of you are Zacchaeus, a government worker who may or may not be wealthy, but you're up here in a tree trying to figure out if all this is true. And I want you to know, you came here because you wanted to learn something or meet someone, but I think you're here because God is seeking after you. And I hope you feel that today, that at some point, I'm not pressuring you, but the parade of Jesus's purposes is stopping at your tree. And he's calling your name. Samantha. Carl. I came for you. I'm here for you, man. Oh, you're lost. He calls him that. It's not like, I just want you to love yourself as you're in. He's like, no, you're like a sheep that sits on the hills. You are lost. You feel lost because you are lost. But I came to seek and to save the lost. And it must be this way. You and me at the table. I want fellowship with you. I purchased your forgiveness. I'm offering you grace. And I want it to change you on the inside out. My hope, our staff's hope, this church's hope, everyone who serves here and belongs here, our greatest hope for you if you're a guest is that you would come to know the grace of Jesus that changes you from the inside out. We don't want a thing from you. We want everything for you that Jesus alone can give. You got that idea? Amen. But for those of us who know him and are walking with him, those who know grace, show grace. Love embraced becomes love extended. Radical grace becomes generosity. So we're going to talk about above and beyond. At one level is like a fundraising campaign. It is, but this is not me trying to pressure you to give. Pressure's off. We don't need to do that. And it's not you giving in order to try to prove something about yourself being a good person or to make God like you. That's not how it works. Our generosity is always effect, not cause. We're not about to earn something. We're not about to try to accomplish something. We're not going to try to manipulate God. We're just going to say, if I'm someone who's been touched by the grace of God, then I want to be a conduit of that grace to other people through my generosity. Do you see it? Yeah. So with that said, I just want to let you know a bit about where you are, who we are, what God is doing in the midst of this church, right? Passion City, D.C., if you don't know, is growing. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's good. we are reaching more people than we ever have. And we're doing it by creating spaces like this where you can hear the gospel, grow in your faith, trust Jesus more, link in with his community and be a part of what he's doing in the world and have meaning and purpose in your life. We're creating all kinds of environments where we do that. We host these Sundays. We rent facilities in the middle of D.C., the Lincoln usually, and Lord willing, we shall again. They are working on their air conditioner even now. Pray for that man. Because he's working on it. And so we love meeting over there. We'll rent here. We pay for production, sound, so you can hear. We pay for meals for those who volunteer because they get here early in the morning and stay late. And so we pay to feed these people that serve you. We buy dinner for groups of 60, 70, 80, 100 people about 6 times a month at community groups all around this city because we want you to meet other believers in your neighborhood that you can know, care about, be a part of their life, that you say, hey, I'm a part of this church, and you may be sitting here in rows, but out there in my neighborhood, I can sit around these tables and get to know some people. We host those, right? We host a lunch once a month called Welcome to Church, where we'll feed you lunch and just tell you, here's what it's involved to be a part of what our church is up to. And so we just sort of educate people. Here's how to get linked in and involved. And in addition to that, we do a lot of other stuff. We do meetings for the 40 plus crowd in our group. We've got Unite for married couples, which there's an increasing amount all the time. We got theological training, core classes, et cetera. We host all kinds of things where we as a staff, a big part of our job is to create environments conducive to your spiritual growth. That's what we're doing, right? And to give you an update on how that's going, Sunday attendance, we put some charts up here. It's DC. Let's put some charts up. There we go. Look at that. If you look at last summer to this summer, attendance on a Sunday morning has grown 19%. Right? 19%. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Because that's 19% of human beings, right? These are people we're talking about, not just numbers, and we're really glad you're here. And so we've seen more people coming on Sunday mornings. Our neighborhood nights, those are those meals we host once a month around the city to help you connect with other people who are believers or on that journey somewhere so that you can know and pray for and encourage and support each other. The number of people involved in those has increased 17% over the last several months. That's good news. Yeah, feel free to cheer. Yeah, if you're like, yeah, this is the good news part. Our Kids in Bloom has grown over 12% this year. There it is. Bloom is our babies that are now in the VIP club, the Atlantis over there. The number of kids and the number of babies has grown and continues to grow at a shocking rate. Students has grown 73%. Which I'll say this, the number of kids isn't maybe strike you as large, but student ministries, middle school and high schools, in all churches, it tends to grow last. It tends to follow later. And so that's always the case. And it's probably the most challenging thing to do in an urban context. And so to see that number grow has been really encouraging. And I'll say, and I don't have time to go into all this, from camp last summer to camp this summer, I've watched them not just grow in number, but also cohere as a group in the way they're supporting one another. And it was so inspiring to me. It's been one of the most inspiring things I've seen in the last several months, is to see how these students are saying, you know what, we're gonna do Bible studies together and we're choosing to walk with the Lord. Even if we're a minority of people doing so in our school, we're moving with him. It's pretty awesome. Family groups have increased as well by 38%. That is, if you wanna, yeah, there you go. If you wanna know how it works, what we want you to do as a church is we want to worship together. That's what this is. We come together on Sundays and we worship, we sing songs together, we study God's word together, we talk to one another, we encourage one another, worship, and then we want to grow together, grow in community and grow in our faith together. And so at the big end of the funnel, we throw block parties and meetups to get you to neighborhood nights, ultimately with the path of getting you to a family group, which is about 2-3 people, something like that, where you're getting together, or couples, and on the regular, you're having meals together where you pray for one another, confess sin, repent of it, encourage one another, that you go in this little family group, like the Minos talk about. This is where the support structure comes in life, that I can be a support for someone else and they can support me in my time of need. That's happening along this growth path over here. And we also want you to serve. We have door holder teams. We call them door holders because the Psalms talks about it. I'd rather be a door holder in the house of God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. If I've gone in to meet God and know his grace, I want to open the door for others to come in and experience the same. And so we've got door holders that serve. And so if you're saying, how do I get involved here? We want us to worship together, grow together, and serve together. And so right now, we've got 421 people in a family group, 705 that are door holders. And so we don't have time to get into all this. If you think about what a Sunday morning attendance, is that everyone who calls your church home? No, because some people are here twice a month, whatever. So how big is your church? I don't know. And I don't love that question anyway, but we want to care about people as much as we can. And we want to get you into pipelines where you can grow and serve, use the gifts God gave you, and be forged in his community. And so right now, about a quarter of a Sunday attendance attends neighborhood nights. About a third of those who attend on Sundays are in family groups, and about half are door holders. I don't know what the ideal number is. You don't want it to be 100% because that means you're reaching no new people, right? So if we hit 100%, that means we quit caring about the lost people in the world and we're off the rails. So you don't want 100%, but I do want it to keep going up. I want to see more and more people not just attend on a Sunday. My hope is that it would be normal around here to say, hey, what group are you in and what team are you on? That we'd say, I came to worship, I came to meet God, I came to get involved, and I joined this family group that supports and cares for one another, and I got this team I serve on, whether in the house, serving as a door holder on Sunday mornings or community groups, or outside the house in all our local engagement opportunities as we serve the city. But I want everyone to be able to say, yeah, I worship, I grow, and I give. Here's my group, here's my team. Make sense? All right, great. All right, so let's move on. We are growing bigger. That's the good news. But I want to clarify this because somebody asked me, they're like, well, why is that your goal? I'm like, no, that's not my goal. I'm not stating a goal, I'm stating a fact. We are growing, it's happening. Our hope is that we wouldn't just grow bigger, but grow stronger. That's our hope, and that's where we come around what above and beyond is for. We don't just want to grow big, we want to grow strong, right? We want healthy growth. And so what does that look like as we talk about above and beyond? Let me give you 4 kind of buckets that as we move towards a time of giving, which again, let me take the pressure off. If you're here like, I'm a guest and y'all are about to go for my wallet, take this one off, bro. It's not for you, all right? You can give if you want. We're not gonna tell you no, but you don't have to, okay? But as we talk about, hey, we wanna continue to be a part of what Jesus is doing in the city, here's 4 ways as a church family that we're gonna sort of parse out what we give today and over the next couple weeks as you give to above and beyond, as we seek to meet our mission under Jesus in this community. Number 1 is we need more structure. We need more structure. And what do I mean by that? We need our systems and our structure to grow stronger as a church. We have run this church on kind of a skeleton crew. I don't know if you know that, but when we started, and even now, if you look at the average church in America, their staff to parishioner ratio, we are nowhere near the average church in America. We have a very small staff for a very growing and a large church. At some level, we're okay with it because it keeps us lean and mean and keeps us divesting authority and responsibility to people who serve in our church. And there's something good about that. But as you continue to grow, it starts to get inefficient as you get more and more emails asking for things. And we start to realize we have to grow as a staff. Now in that, we have been drafting off of support from Passion City, Atlanta, the church that launched us. It's funny, just this week, someone asked me that. Have you ever heard of Passion City, Atlanta? I'm like, yeah, we didn't steal their name. Like they launched us. Like what? All right, so yes, that's the church that launched us into the world. And they were critical financially in the first 2 years, gave quite generously to launch us into the world. And so their financial investment in us is what got us, boom, off the ground, off the launch pad, into orbit and off and running. They have not financially given in the last several years, not because they don't love us, but because they've got other mission priorities and we were able to get to a sustaining amount through your generosity. Now, with that said, we have drafted off of them over the last couple years in terms of system structures and support. Namely in like HR, finance, accounting, their database system, website, et cetera. All this kind of back-end stuff, we've used staff in Atlanta, which has had some advantages, but also had some disadvantages. And the plan has always been, as we grow, to be able to stand and support our own weight. That's always been the goal. COVID changed the timetable, but the goal has always been the same. And we've talked about this. This is like a baby. At some point, you want your child to be able to dress themselves, right? At a certain age, if they're still asking you to help put their pants on, there's a dynamic there that's deeply unhealthy. Like you just want to keep growing, and maturation is success, right? So we're family, always will be, and love each other, but the goal has always been for us to stand up on our own 2 feet. That means for us, we're gonna have to add new staff, which we already have. We just announced today that Amy's coming on the team tomorrow. to help in our family group structure because we need to get more and more people joining them. We want to make sure you're shepherded and organized well. You know how to get into one and you know how to lead one, so there's more training. And our team's desire is to give you more resources and biblical training to know how to be not just a group of buddies that hang, but a spiritual community. There's some resource production we need to do, and so adding staff is going to help us do that. We're not asking for your gift today at Above and Beyond to support the salary of a staff. You never ask for a one-time gift for a recurring expense. That's a bad strategy. But we are asking you to pay for desks because we don't have any, and laptops, things like that. There's all kinds of different stuff. We're gonna need a new database system. The one we have has really not been the best to serve our needs. And a database system is like the modern shepherd staff. It just helps you know where the sheep are and what they're doing. And so our hope as we buy new systems, launch a new website, bring on some more support, that what you'll feel is a reduction in friction in getting involved in our church, greater clarity and communication about how to get involved, that sort of thing. So the idea is on the back end that it's easier and easier for people to go, oh, I know what it is and I know how to get involved in what God's doing in this community. We want to make that easier even as we grow strong, not just big. That's the idea, right? So I could go on and on about that, but I'll leave that one there. We also need more space. We talked about this at Above and Beyond 2 years ago. We were able to move to the Lincoln Theater, which gave us a lot more space to host more people, but we didn't know where we were gonna put kids. And then that building opened up on the corner of 12th and U, 1201 U Street. We were able to get that 3-story building just a couple doors down and said, now we have a spot for Kids in Bloom. And so on Sunday mornings, that's where our Kids in Bloom meet. That's where our high school and middle school meets. During the week, that's where we host core classes, neighborhood nights. It's where our staff offices, et cetera. And so that's been great, and it's been awesome, and you guys have really taken to that mandate in Genesis to be fruitful and multiply. So we've had more and more babies coming, and we're not at a dangerous baby level at 1201, but we're flirting with it. There's a lot of babies over there on a Sunday morning, and so we've started to realize we need to create more space because we are growing and getting bigger. We're gonna have to repurpose some of this space to meet the needs of the youngest in our house. And as we add staff, we've run out of space for them too. So we're like, all right, we got to figure this out, how we're going to kind of play with this square footage we have. While doing that, we realized we're going to have to grow. And, we meet at the Lincoln, Lord willing, shall again, as their AC is getting worked on. As we were praying about space, we're at 12th and U, at 13th and U, we got a call that there's a space opening up just on the other side of the Lincoln Theater. 2 floors upstairs that would add another 2,500 square feet at a lower rate than what we pay now at 1201. So we won't be moving over there, but we will be able to expand into that space so we can repurpose our existing space for Kids and Bloom and students and be able to add additional staff. And so it's awesome because the financial cost is not particularly high for us, but it allows us to get that more square footage while we're still on our journey to our own building. And so it's just amazing that this is opening up around the Lincoln Theater, that we've got them surrounded. And we're slowly taking over the block. We're not taking over the block. We're happy to be neighbors with Ben Stuart and everybody, but we're getting more of the block, which is great because y'all are having babies. And so the idea is we're gonna have more space for that staff and for students. And so part of what you give to today will be to support that space. Launch us into that because it doesn't require the turnover that 1201 did. 1201 was a tiki bar that needed to feel a lot less tiki and way less bar. This one looks more office space. It's not as heavy a lift as 2 years ago, so that's good news. But this is going to be awesome booths on our way through the desert on our journey to the promised land. So that's your third box, is we need more savings. It's always been a part of our path to go, you know what, it's gonna be best for us long-term to be able to own a building in the city. And I think the failure of the air conditioner at the Howard and the failure of the air conditionings at the Lincoln has testified to, at some point, it's nice to be able to own your own space. And so we have just been pooling up savings little by little on the side just to be able to enter into a conversation. And so when you give today, part of your above and beyond will go to that, of us just pooling up savings so when the right building comes along, we can saddle up to that table and have a serious conversation about moving into a space that'll meet our needs better. And the last thing is we want more serving. We don't want to just say, hey, we're going to collect giving just for what we're doing for one another internally. We want to keep reaching more and more people. And we talked about this a little bit last time, so I won't belabor it as much here, but we work with local partners that are doing great work in the city and say, we want to come alongside you. We want to volunteer in areas that it's helpful, and we want to financially support in areas that just put wind in the sail of what you're already doing. And this year, our local engagement partners that we're spotlighting are the Shaw Community Center and the Unique Learning Center. We love those ministries. Shaw Community Center is just a couple blocks down the road. They provide kids a place to go after school, food, mentoring, support, tutoring. They provide a supportive network where these kids can stay in school, grow, flourish in a loving environment, and then launch out to use their gifts and capacities in the world. And we've seen a proven track record there of success, and we want to come behind it and support it as they continue to offer programs for kids in our neighborhood to thrive as they pursue their education. Unique Learning Center operates in a very similar way, although our giving towards them is going to be really aimed at their spotlight major event of the year, which is their camp. Once a year, they get to take kids out of the city and just get to go have an awesome experience and to just have joy and fun and really get to exit some of the stress and challenges of their world and enter into some of the great joys of their world. And so we want to support that. What we're doing with Above and Beyond today is that 10%, a tithe of what you give, will go to those ministries. So we just decided as we take up a gift today, whatever 10% of that is, boom, that goes off the top and goes to those people because we want to be a part of that too. So, bringing it to a landing, what are we asking for you? We're asking you to give. We're going to lead that moment in a minute to give above and beyond what you normally do. And so we're not saying if you normally give to our operating budget, you go, oh, okay, then I'll just give that to above and beyond. That will have gone above nothing and beyond nowhere. So if you already give to us, thank you, but we're asking for you to give above and beyond to that. And so if you've given nothing, hey, sky's the limit. You can start today, and that would be amazing. And if you're like, man, I just got here, I don't know you people, don't feel any pressure. I've said that, but you're invited, you're not barred. You can certainly give, but I don't want you to feel any pressure or obligation to. And some of you say, well, Ben, are we supposed to tithe, give 10% of what we make? Well, I do think there's a whole argument there. You know, Jesus castigated the religious elite of his day, and he said, you tithe from your spice rack, but you don't care for the poor. And then he says, you should have done the former without neglecting the latter. He doesn't say, forget about the money, you should care about the poor. He says, you should do both. And so I do think we should aim at that, right? I had a mentor who used to say that. When someone would come to him and say, are we supposed to tithe? He would say, oh, no, don't be limited by that. You can give as much as you want. And I'd say the same, that's great. For me, and I normally don't talk like this, I to the degree that it's helpful, I want you to know, as your pastor, Donna and I, we give 10% of what we make to this church. And we also give above and beyond that. We give to Above and Beyond here at the church, and we give to other ministries we support, not out of duty, but because we just want to be a part of what God's doing there. And so I don't like to talk about that because it can be weird talking about your own personal finances, but my point in bringing it up is I just want you to hear from me. We're not asking you to do something we have not done, right? And we had meetings this week with our team leaders that lead all of our teams, just saying, hey, if we're leading in this house, we're going to go first. And so we're not asking you to do something we've not been willing to do ourselves, right? Now, I think there's some final numbers up there. Am I correct? Did we put that? Yeah, there it is. The goal we're aiming at to cover all those needs is around I say around 400 because I think it's good estimates of what it'll take to fill out that space we'll need and to get some of the structure lined up that we need. The astute mathematician will go, wait a minute, does that say 5 million on the bottom? Because that does not go into 400. Your math does not math. Let me say this. Anything you give above and beyond the above and beyond today, we're not going to spend on like bigger desks, all right? 10% of whatever we give today, if it goes beyond what we need for our systems and space, 10% of it will go to our local engagement partners. The rest will pack into the savings because as we've talked to brokers, ultimately that's the number we're going to have to get to enter a serious conversation. It won't get you much of a building, but it'll get you a long way towards one. And so we're just accruing that more over time, and we're going to do that a bit. So, make sense? But to close, I want to come back to where we started with Zacchaeus. And I just want to take the pressure off to give. I want you to receive the gift of grace and forgiveness. And then generosity as a result, right? Jesus did not ask for Zacchaeus' money. He didn't want his money. He wanted his heart. Jesus didn't say, I came to seek and to save that cash. He didn't say that. He said, I came to seek and save the lost. I want you, Zacchaeus. I want your heart. I want you to know the God who made you. Now that experience of grace leads to generosity. It liberates you from being a selfish person, which is what he was. Selfishness, building my own little kingdom for my power and glory, can feel like life until you get it. And then you realize my world just shrank. It got real small. But to be able to be a part of what God is doing and to serve those people, that's beautiful. And so I'm just inviting you, not pressuring you. And if you're a guest here, I would invite you, be generous at your home church. If you're from out of town, go home and lean in hard on what God is doing there. If you want to give here, great, but you don't have to do that. But do be a part of what God is doing in the city. I think you're going to want that story. It'll feel good for you. And for those of us who are part of what God's doing here, my prayer is that we'll just continue to lean in with our giving, with our serving, so we can be a part of what God's doing.